Hey everybody, it's Robert Dunt from art.10.com. I'm at the Defining Structure exhibition, which is a fantastic thing here at the Cello Factory. And I'm here with Ben Deakin. Ben, hello.
Hello.
Very nice to see you. Good stuff. So, take me to your world.
It is a bit of it's quite a wacky world, this one.
That's cool.
So, unlike much of the other work in the show, my work is more specifically about landscape, but landscape as, without sounding too pretentious, landscape as an experience rather than thinking about being of a place. It's, it's called Compositor, and it is, as it sounds, it's an image made up of sort of fragments of different images which are layered over one another or fused together. It's rather like Katie was saying earlier. I start off by, in quite an abstract way, just sort of getting a lot of texture and underlying sort of activity on the painting surface to begin with. And sometimes that suggests a sense of space. Other times I'll start to bring in imagery that's directly based on certain places or experiences. But the main thing is that what I've always felt very strongly is that landscape offers a chance for a multi. It's kind of hard to explain, but a multiplied or sort of augmented experience of so that. Sorry,
are you almost painting your experience when you're out in the world looking at a landscape? Or?
It's based on personal experiences, so I do quite a lot of travelling, and as a result of that, I'm sort of drawing on those experiences when I'm painting, and all of those things feed in. But what I'm really sort of interested by is how, when we're anywhere, it could be an urban landscape, it could be a room, it could be in the middle of nowhere. Our experience is based on the present is based on an experience of previous experiences, or films we might have seen, books we might have read, and all of those kind of trigger memories. So I'm trying to find a way of making paintings which represent that triggering of layered memories and a sort of multi-sensory experience all at once.
So it's almost like trying to paint what goes on inside you when you're looking at anything, like a landscape. So even if you're looking at a tree, there's all this sort of stuff like, you remember going to Vietnam, or when it reminds you of like old stories of Hercules or something. Or,
or climbing a similar tree when I was or a tree a tree that features in a poem or a song by Nick Cave or whatever it is. So it's that, and so this is the reason why the painting kind of has moments where there's sort of points of intersection between almost like different states of space or states of landscape.
No, I mean, I sort of see, because I see like, these little steps, I don't know if they are steps, but that's what I sort of really, they're like little steps, and they remind me of, I don't know, like going to Rome and sort of little old Roman columns, and this little bit here reminds me of like, I don't know, like a sort of Lord of the Rings thing, or something. But I mean, it's got all those different kind of, senses of things merging around.
And then the more geometric elements, I mean, those sort of structural aspects they're a sort of trigger for, they're like a byword for civilization or some form of human interaction with the space. So I'm, again, sort of thinking about, it's almost like maybe a kind of moment of archaeological discovery. So you're walking through a fairly barren landscape, and suddenly there's a bit of like mosaic on the floor, on the ground, like just appearing between some pebbles, and you suddenly realise you're standing on the ruin of some Greek mansion. Or
it does look like it does have that feeling to it.
So that's the reason why those are like codes almost.
They're almost like sort of traces of humans having built within these worlds, aren't they?
I mean, that's sort of on a very simple level. Formally, they allow the painting to operate in a different way. So it's a sort of plane within, which is sort of transparent but a surface all at once, which I find helps to kind of create that sense of slight unease, or not discomfort, but slight sort of instability, that things are always shifting and changing, which again, I think we often think of landscapes as being not inert, but not something which is active and can affect us, but I feel quite strongly that they can, and that they have a certain amount of agency. They can do things to us. Not in a sinister way, but they can have they can act upon us.
Have a more poetic depth.
So that's one aspect of it.
That's really cool. I mean, it's actually the thing that actually strikes me first of all. I just really like the colour. I really like these like pale greens. Sorry, to take it out for a more intellectual bit.
That's all right.
They're just really pretty. Is the colour? I mean, I guess you're working on the colour to try and emphasise this point of the sort of imaginative stuff that takes place when you're looking at the world. Is the kind of light palette? Is it meant to give a kind of dreamy?
Yeah, it is meant to be a little bit dreamlike. There's it also, by keeping a relatively shallow tonal range, so light to dark, it's relatively narrow. That allows the space to not suddenly become foreground and background, so you can have this push and pull where things can come forward, even if they might feel like they're receding in another way.
It's quite interesting. It does have the space in it is actually quite dreamy, because it does have quite a sort of shallow space, but there's also depth in it, and it shifts around. I like this because I like this little square bit here, because that keeps sort of taking you back to another sense of depth within it.
Right. Yeah. So the planes sort of layer these sort of flat areas are sort of representative of that sort of idea of some sort of moment of consciousness coming through. That's reminding me of something. I mean, that's a bit kind of sounds a bit crude, but again, it's just
that's almost like an idea.
Yeah, in the basic sort of way.
Yeah. Okay, that's quite cool. Because then you can almost say, well, these lines are sort of in my bird, like little ideas creeping in, or
or just disruptions to the sort of the sort of most direct experience of that. But setting something up where this could be an object, but then suddenly there's like a doorway through it. And I think also I hope what people can get from these paintings is they can literally kind of travel around.
You do.
I mean, on a different level to travelling around in Alex's VR piece here. It's a whole other level, which I'm quite envious of.
That's really
that's the idea that you're sort of. There's no compositional sort of focus. It's not like you've arrived. You can just keep meandering and sort of find worlds within worlds.
So on a more kind of formal level, do you spend quite a long time planning the painting so that the eye will keep going from one place to another?
It's rather like Katie was saying, it's a sort of mixture between setting up certain parameters and like an idea of using certain images to set the scene in one way, and then disrupting that so that it doesn't sort of coalesce too quickly. It doesn't sort of become one image. But there's a lot of planning, but there's an awful lot of intuition as well. A lot of obliterating, moving over things. But I think.
Do you use a projector or something?
I do, So that's another thing, like just trying to sort of using projectors. I find are great for when your head is getting in the way of making the next step. So you just fulfill a whole sort of section of the painting at once.
Because these bits look like them from the projector.
Sometimes the white was actually done later. It's the dark. There's an underlying dark tone. So in simple terms, I'll start off with acrylic and work quite fast. There's sort of different textures and layers. There'll be some projections which are done. It's more like drawing than painting in a sort of light acrylic. And then the oil process is usually done without. That's more intuitive. I'm painting with oils over all that to give a greater sort of sense of depth or
interesting, because it's got a nice cohesion. between the acrylic and the oil.
Right, good. Yeah.
It gels. So when you do the projected things in the background, are they like, I don't know, like a picture of a wolf or a town or a village, or is it something? Is it actually a real thing?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it is quite often. Sometimes there'll be amalgamated images which are then rephotographed, and then
so they're possibly already a bit complicated.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. This one is one of a series that was done for a show earlier in the year, and they were all based. The whole series was based on me trying to take this idea a step further and actually try and create the landscapes that I'm sort of thinking about when I'm in the studio in the world. It was on a residency in Spain, and there was this dry riverbed near the residency, and so it just sort of made me think that it sort of resonated with some of the paintings I'd already made. It made me think, I'm almost in one of my paintings here. This is
okay. Yeah.
And these geometric structures kept cropping up in other earlier paintings, so I thought, well, I'll physically make those things, take them into that landscape and arrange them. So I spent a week taking these structures which I created and sort of creating different, almost like stage sets, but in the landscape all through different locations, all over the river.
Put these in the river.
In the river.
Oh, cool.
And photographed them from lots of different angles, and then spliced those up, and those are like kind of with the starting points for this series of paintings, including this one.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah. So
that's quite. So it's almost like I quite like the idea. It's a bit like sort of music, like you almost sampled your own song, distorted it, and then played it again. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Okay.
I can't help thinking this looks like a massive radar.
Well, that was a big steel dish that I dragged down there, and it.
Oh, so that was something dragged down into this river.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, cool.
But again, exactly those like listening stations that we have on the south coast.
That's great structures. Yeah.
So all of that, again, you think, oh, that's a bit like that, and then you think. Is that a bit like Tarkovsky and this? We're always drawing connections.
Yeah. No, I really like that. I like that sort of sense of it's almost like seeing the imagination working as you look at the world, or a sort of vision of how your imagination works as you see something. Yeah, which is cool.
Well, that's the intention anyway. Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah. But I hope people can just bring their own experiences to these. It's not again, it's not about me saying you've got to see the world this way. It's like opening up opportunities just to kind of roam around and make your own association.
Yeah, no, and I also like that it's like a contemporary twist on landscape, isn't it? Because I always like landscape paintings, but you can't just do a normal one today.
It's harder to make it mean something. In a sense,
that's actually quite interesting. It's harder to make it mean something if you just do.
Well, I think there's a lot of very political landscape work being made now, photography and film particularly, or video work. But and painting, a lot of kind of. I think that's another thing that's overlooked these days, that landscape painting and landscape imagery has always been politically charged. Even going back to Constable and things like that anyway, he was making statements about the Enclosures Act. But now we just see them as like picture postcard things. So there's always been that disconnect. So I think that's what motivates me to stick at this and try and give landscape something else to say.
Oh, that's really cool.
Hopefully. We can only try, can't we?
It's great. Anyway, cheers, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Lovely. So, thanks, guys. Hang on. You get the links to the next films, and other than that, like and subscribe, and see you soon. Cheerio. Bye. Bye.